say?
What up, everybody? I'm Andreas. Welcome to Synctank. Quite a Synctank we have tonight. William John Bill is here in solidarity for us. For those of us who are only here in spirit, David is ill, but I hear he is like just become part of the ether like Santa Claus. So that helps a lot. Alex Fulton, the crypto Kubrickology. Is that how I say that? One of the greatest.
Crypto-Kubrology.
Crypto Kubrology, one of the best Twitter pages on, if you're actually looking, and not just because of the crypto or the Kubrology, but just the generality of like every time something happens with the queen or the king in the transition, there's a lens to look through things, which is amazing. Zach is here. Welcome,
What's
Zach.
up?
And he's wearing Rose's hat, which we were going to let me spotlight you there to illustrate the awesomeness that is the spare time supply distribution. Wow, that is such a cool cam twist effect that exists right now. I love it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I upgraded my operating system, and then turns out I'm in the future now.
You have Video Toaster. That's like 1987. I like it. It's good. Zane's here from Resonant Mirror, an expert in hermetics, and he recently did a study detail on Nimrod de Rosario, the Argentinian esotericist. You've also done a big thing on the Age of Egypt, or the Light of Egypt.
Light of Egypt, Thomas Burgoyne, kind of an offshoot of Rosicrucianism, I think, as far as I can understand. Max Theon, them guys.
Yeah, I mean, you've done a lot of interesting research, not yet seen by enough people, I'd say. You're kind of a dark horse there. And then Will Jom doing some crazy stuff. How you been, Will? I mean, you're muted, so you can unmute. He's powerful.
I'm doing really, really well. Just happy to be able to help the team out. You know what I mean?
Right.
So hopefully I can contribute some nuggets. You know what I mean?
Bro, you're the stone soup that the nuggets formed from. But also Noel's here. Noel, one of my favorites. I would say a PhD researcher in Vedic. No, we're all wrong.
No, I finished my MA 2 weeks ago.
There you go. Cool. So how do you feel?
Congrats.
Oh, well, writing the paper is like the whole thing, and then you just feel like it's like a complex process. You get a feeling of what academia feels like,
right? And so in general, I know it's a deep thing, but what were you studying, and what was your paper kind of reflective of?
It's a bit technical. It's philology. If you're familiar with philology, it's like the love of words. So I did a master's mostly in Sanskrit grammar, and it's actually theology, sacred texts and their interpretations, but I took the advantage as like a backdoor into Berkeley and was just studying Sanskrit grammar most of the time. And then I did a paper on I'm trying to help find a comprehensive solution to the problem of desire in the Bhagavad Gita. And I did that by looking at what's called exhortative language, like exhortations, like commands, injunctions, requests. So there's some like Sanskrit verbal forms I looked at, which sort of imply that the speaker of the text, Krishna, has desires. Where people have a tendency to not be able to distinguish between Hinduism and Buddhism very well, and then they just give a Buddhist reading of everything, which is a little bit harsh against desire, but I found some important evidence where the speaker of the text, Krishna, even commands Arjuna to desire specific things. So I short-circuited some work of some other scholars, and I expanded the data set. And it's like every line is like Sanskrit annotation, so it's a bit technical.
Wow. Well, that's awesome though, because the idea of desire is such an important thing that we've been told to relegate as well. And it seems like it's something that drives us so much, right? I mean, anytime they try to get us to do something, it's out of desire, it's dreams or nightmares. So like the space program came up. That's something, Zach, you had a thought on, is the DART program, NASA DART mission. The last images the space probe took before getting smashed. NASA successfully sent a spacecraft allegedly to smash into the Dimorphos, which is a weird name. Is that like two dreams? It's like there's like the good
Dimorphos yeah, right.
I mean, are we talking about dreams and nightmares?
Well, there's the two comets, and so I think it's partly to do with that, because part of how they were able to do the mission without having like an extra craft behind it was that it was such a large asteroid that it was neighboring, and so they had a good reference point for where in relation it was. Like you can see it with, you know, Earth telescopes. You could see the impact and a little cloud of gas. But yeah, it's synchronistically, it's interesting because, you know, we have this dart, which, you know, throwing darts at the dart board, hoping you get a bullseye.
At the bullseye.
So we got an eye of the storm here, Florida, which is also kind of the, you know, the bullseye as far as exopolitics and geopolitics with, you know, Mar-a-Lago and that whole kind of thing. You have the, you know, the nexus of the bull in the china shop that is Florida man. So it's kind of interesting, you know, a calamity that we're trying to avoid, like, you know, an asteroid or something that could potentially wipe us all out. That was the whole mission, whole point of the mission, to see if there is a threat, which that was one of Werner von Braun's thing, as far as I think that was the final threat, as far as like, you know, it'd be UFOs and, you know, the different stuff that's there's a lot of I think disinformation in with some of his quotes there, but he certainly you know, he's America's favorite Nazi scientist.
Well, at least one of them. I mean, so we've got this idea. It says after dark comes Hera, and I saw. Well, let me go back to, what was it? Dimorphos. If you go on their wiki, it talks about ESA is the European Space Agency, and you guys remember they were the first before DART to land on an asteroid. I think it was 2016 or something like that. That was like a thing that they did in order to do a resource test. This program is called Hera, you know, like the goddess of the heroes of Mount Olympus, a warrior goddess, right? And it's been a thing recently. All, you know, Apollo, now you've got the Artemis again.
All the celestial warriors are like gearing up.
Yeah, they're like badass chicks. They're Xenas. You know what I mean? So like, what's the deal? Like, why are we going towards like the feminine? Remember that movie Prey, Predator prequel movie, and it's all about like the predatory nature of femininity. You know what I mean? It's like, have you seen this? It's like
I'm curious. Like, I wonder how many like female enlistees there are in Ukraine versus Russia.
That's interesting. Okay, female Ukrainian. I have to be careful when I type this too. Soldiers.
Yeah. How many women identifying as women, female? I hate that, you know, it just sounds
so oligarchical, right? Yeah, classist. I know.
Well, I've been talking.
I've
been talking for a while about an emerging civil service draft in the United States, where the idea of a male-only draft being quite sexist from pretty much everyone's perspective, I think, at this point. So it seems like all the groundwork has been made for that civil service draft to help save America. I think they'll just use the same model as Israel, right? Where when you turn 18, you have to give 2 years to the military or something.
Yeah, right. You have to do your like little tour. It's kind of like, you know, with the Mormons, they do their little, you know, Their little
Last
deal.
Tuesday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, this was a year ago almost, said, when the war in Ukraine is finally over, his country will emerge as a big Israel, suggesting Zelensky meant in part that Ukraine will learn how to view its neighbors the way Israel has long viewed them, as enemies waiting to pounce. Harkov also highlights the significance of Zelensky's repeated request that the Russians and Ukrainians meet in Jerusalem. I mean, there's a bunch of things there that are all more synchronistic even, but the idea...
it's interesting. It's just, are you sure that he wasn't just like, no, this is real? And
I mean, trying to get all of your citizens to enlist in the draft, right? You want to have a universal. I mean, they do this in Switzerland. Even the women now, since what 1998 to 2000, the new constitution.
In places where you have a lot of like services and healthcare, like they work you for that.
Mm. I mean, so in terms of the other synchronicity of Jerusalem being important, do you guys see anything to that, or is it just like why Jerusalem be the new courts capital? This came up earlier.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much there. I have to get this piece of mail that I got today, which was ridiculous.
Yeah, while you grab that, I'll show people again. This is the Israel World Court building with the pyramid that they've built in order to house world courts in the future, like after the ICC.
World courts?
Right. The idea of having a world court that would be, for the rest of the world, when countries have problems, they could go to Israel to decide everything. And ICC already we talked about this a little bit earlier today. The ICC is the International Criminal Court. Not Cricket Council. Are you kidding me? Criminal Court. That's real. That's what they're going to talk about. Cricket. That's what they think. I'm down. Don't get me wrong. Like when you cheat at cricket, have you ever seen those dudes with the Velcro in their leg and they're squishing the ball? All right. International Criminal Court, though, in The Hague, they'll look at where they cover. So this is a play. This is right out of the Dutch East Indies Company, and they're running the world's bickering. So if in Africa or somewhere there's some sort of an interaction between two states, and one of them comes out on top, or both of them are screwed because this is usually a Western financed excursion that they can clean up afterwards, then the ICC can say who were war criminals, right? And so then you've got this case law developed that says every other country should follow what the ICC said because it's above the Supreme Court of our country. It's the world court, and it sets precedent for world government. But they want Israel. So I don't know. Do you guys think, why not Tibet? What do you think?
Well, did you really want to know?
Go for it. Explain.
I'm not even gonna go there.
Too terrified? I mean, because it's.
I mean, I got some mail today that I'm sure they'll probably go into it.
Yeah, it's got something to do with that.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, the warnings in the mail. Let me spotlight this. It's hard to read because there you go. It looks like Scientology. Earth's final warning.
Yeah, I don't. Who is this from?
Jehovah's Witness? What's it say?
I think so. Yeah, I used to be married to one of them, and so sometimes they send people by still, or sign me up for. This is a glossy, nice thing. I mean, this is pretty good,
dude.
There's
read us a little bit. What's it telling you to do?
Okay, Beauty and the Beast in Revelation 17. Okay, in a world where Beauty and the Beast. In Revelation 17, we see the same 7-headed, 10-horned beast again. Except now, John's vision shows that it is being ridden by a woman, the great harlot. Who is this woman? I think we know who it is.
I mean,
there could be so many.
The whore of Babylon could be also Mephibosheth.
Yeah, right. So for the husband is the head of the wife, also as also Christ is the head of the church.
Weird.
So
It's a bit.
they've got this formatting, they did a great job. You got to hand it to them, but they made it really difficult to read. But I think it's, the Scarlet Woman or the Whore of Babylon.
What do you know about the Jehovah's Witness? Because it's an interesting Prince, Michael Jackson, no birthdays. That came up earlier too. The idea that Jehovah's Witnesses are all about the end of the world is coming. They're supposed to warn everybody, but then in order to make sure that they might be one of the 144,000, because they probably aren't. What's the deal?
So Yeah, there's a lot of like split off between like them and Seventh-day Adventists, and there's this whole eschatology that's like such a fundamental part of their organization and has been for years, that they haven't really been able to keep up with the times. And that's why, if you bring these things up, you're liable to get disfellowshipped, which is the fancy term that they use, which
Excommunicated.
yeah, which when I got married, we weren't allowed to have like a real pastor or a real like a religious person officiate the wedding. That was one of the stipulations, which fine. We had our friend do it, and they still came, and it's just weird. It's a very yeah, with the Watchtower, they like have to go out every weekend, like her and her sisters would, and hand out copies of the Watchtower and try and get converts. Like it was like, I still get handwritten letters from them.
It's
Like,
interesting because they do this thing with synchronicity. Like it's all about math of the pyramids and the idea that the Hermetic magics were secreted away by Gnostics and made it to
there's
America.
the Sigillum D. So yeah, the Sigillum D, there's the Enochian table right there. And then you've got the elementals. And so, yeah.
Zane, you've been doing a lot of
Yes.
studies into Hermetics, and what do you think about this? Oh, hey, I'll pull up this. Let me spotlight what you're holding there. Almost there. There it is. Comte de Gabelle. Tell me what this is.
So basically it's like a French, kind of a French spin on Kabbalah. It's interesting and weird.
Oh.
Yeah, very strange. Some guy referred me to it on Reddit and in a PDF, and I liked it so much I got the book.
What do you know about it? So the French Kabbalah, I mean, we know that
Okay, so basically, yeah,
yeah.
it's with the you know how they do the QK thing? I don't know. But basically it talks about elementals, and I think it's more Hermetist wisdom kind of. They try to make it seem from the Hebraic traditions. They're probably, and it could have just a lot of the people of the day back then thought it was just like a spoof kind of. But there, when I
What's the
read through
year
it,
on it?
Oh yeah,
a
it's
year on it,
it's
it's quite old.
yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah, what is what? While you grab it, all it says
Like
on Wiki,
1620s?
1673, Abbe Nicolas Pierre Henri Montfaucon de Villiers, French
the one.
abbot in the 17th century, Charles Baudier and Anatole France, all interested in the work of this. The Rape of the Lock.
Wait, but back that up. It said the Abbey of the Nolan. What does that say?
Yeah, let me jump back there 1 sec.
If I saw that correctly, then
in here, right here.
It was
I
by
was just
it said it was by Abbe Abbe Nicolas Pierre in
Right, that's his
Okay.
name. Yeah. Why? What were your thoughts there? Even
because this
yourself?
just seems like an outgrowth of the Brunian schools that took the Hermetic Renaissance wand. And
Yes.
went
So I
nuts
was
with
going to
it.
say, Bill, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but with the big renaissances and big awakenings in like occult fields, like it's like the 1200s, and then you have the 1600s, and then it's the 1800s, and then the 1900s, and then the 1960s, and like so it's like there's been this quickening throughout the years with that stuff, or like a linear or exponential curve. Even it's very interesting.
Well, the crazy shit is that the 16th century guys, right? Like, it's their shit that's finally being executed now, right? Like, how do I structure this? Like, the shit that the 16th century people set up, then the 18th century set up, like what the 18th century set up, that's already over. That's already run its cycle, right? What people in the 19th century set up, that's already run its cycle. But it's the 16th century shit that's coming home. That the shit that they set up is starting to like culminate and finally be executed.
Really?
I think you see this with the
No, yeah,
emergence of VR.
Yeah.
So
Oswald Spengler is also a good resource on this idea of basically using analogy between different cultures to kind of see the cycles.
What's his name? What's Spangler?
Oz Spengler with an E, not an A. Oswald, like with a. That's
There we
close.
go.
Yeah, that'll work.
Spangler.
Good
Okay.
old Ozzy Spangler.
All right, I get it. So what's his deal? Oswald Spengler, interest in mathematics, art, decline of the West. What do you say?
So basically, he was kind of doing some stuff that Jose Arguelles was doing before Jose Arguelles got into it, but he was doing it from the West's perspective. He was studying the Western culture, Faustian ideologies, and like seeing how it was on the downtrend kind of compared to the rest. He was comparing it to Rome and stuff like that.
Right. What
He
about
wrote
India? In the 16th, I mean, so the Germans were obsessed with India in the 16th century and into the 18th century. And we think of India as super ancient, right? It's so old. Oh, but like then you really think about it, and a lot of Indian cultures from like the Vedic period is more recent. And then there's beyond that, a lot of, India in the 12th to the 16th century. Let's see, the Delhi Sultanate, right? Interacting with the Turks, interacting with the West, completely. Like the culture here, then talking about proto-industrialization, they're having the myths about these flying saucers and all this old tech and alchemy. It seems like they're talking about relatively similar alchemy. Noel, do you have any thoughts on Vedic alchemy or Vedic sorcery?
Well, to connect back to the Germans, I think part of the Germans' obsession with India, it might be a little bit overstated from one aspect. Like their swastika is not actually swastika; it's a Hakenkreuz.
Right.
Yeah.
Swastika is actually a symbol of auspiciousness, where the Hakenkreuz is kind of inauspicious. But their obsession, so people conflate those two, but the obsession is due to a drive for, like, it's identity politics, actually, searching for their roots, right? So you have, the Italians can obviously claim a sort of genealogical provenance from Rome and thus Greece, and the French also claim similarly in the Catholicism, going back to the Merovingian kings. And then the British have their empire going on around the world. They don't even need to go back in time. They're already conquering the present. And so the French had the Spaniards had the Americas, the Portugals had the Americas, and the Germans, what are they left with? I mean, so they get conquered by Napoleon, and then they're wondering, like, well, what about us? Are we inferior to the French? So a lot of their problems in terms of search for identity come to trying to reach back even further than Rome and Greece. So they're reaching back to India. And their observations in terms of the Proto-Indo-European language groups, finding a lot of cognates in the language. Cognates just mean words that are related. So like in English, the word that is like the Sanskrit word tut, and all the ER suffixes like doer, knower, all of those are agentive suffixes in Sanskrit, like kartra, gatra. So that vocalic R at the end. So there's just so much Sanskrit in the European languages, and the Germans are like, oh, we're Hungs, we're Hungza, we're the swan-like people, we're graceful, we're noble, So they tried to reach back. It's sort of a contrivance in a way. I mean, why Germany more than another? But interestingly, it played out in action that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So when the Indians reached for their own independence from Britain, they also reached out to the Germans, who were in the middle of a war with Britain. So there's a little bit of a synchronicity there, but I would say ideologically it's very dissimilar, because India is not known for having like a massive military conquest outside of its territory. They're more like a cultural cosmopolis that where the Proto-Indo-European language seems to have spread throughout these kind of attached continents like Africa and
thought of the Aryan invasion, right? What do you think about
Well, that's kind of gone out of favor. It's more of like a migration, but I think the future will see more of like a cosmopolis. Like there's just trade going on everywhere, and we were being arrogant to think that these weren't aware of each other. Like to think that China is not aware of Europe, or to think that Africa is not aware of India. It's just so like.
India is so vast and such a melting pot and so crazy just on the surface. I have no clue how to wrap my head around like the basic politics, let alone exopolitics in India. And so
start with the geography. You always start with the geography. Just look at the big border. Sure. Look at the.
That was just to say I shared a link in the thing. From the same place that we have all these potential ancient technologies and things that we do know of. We have, it's a really advanced place, and we see science and all these amazing, things happening, but also, we see
this is real.
At the same time that 2 people were booked for, not admitting that cow dung cures COVID, because everybody.
It's not. No, it says 2 booked under NSA and Manipur for Facebook posts that cow dung won't cure COVID.
No, so I said everybody knows that it cures COVID, and so
India,
I can't believe that they said that. That's horrible.
Oh, I
don't know anything about that.
Well, the Manipur police have booked a journalist and an activist under a National Security Act NSA, which provided for detention for up to a year without trial, days after they were arrested for saying cow urine and dung do not cure COVID-19. In their Facebook post relating to the ruling, Bharatiya Janata Party.
Oh, the Hindustan Times. No, this is totally unreliable. These guys are famous for like manufacturing, like completely fabricating stories out of thin air.
This is a pretty great story to manufacture. Like, how do you know this?
Very unlikely.
Daily Mail had it.
Oh, but it's from India. It's from India News. Is that any better?
Reservations about that newspaper.
I mean, I saw it on a bunch of different. Sources. I like to think
propaganda can be synchronous.
Yeah,
I'd like to.
Propaganda can be synchronous. That's true.
I'd like to think there would be some sort of, punishment for being so incredulous.
Kurt, you're here? Oh my God, Kurt did make it.
It sounds very nonsense,
At the very beginning of the
Isn't
stream,
that what the idea about the credit score is? Sorry, excuse me.
I was gonna say I broke the stream at the beginning. I sent some bad links. I want to introduce Kurt Vidorfer. Did make it from American Time Machine. You're here hanging out patiently. Want to ask you a couple questions earlier. Actually, have you ever been? Did Jehovah's Witness ever come to your door?
No, I live in like this really small town, Pennsylvania. So like people just don't come around. Do towns. Well, it's like 500 people here, so no, none of that really.
What about to your window?
No, not to the window. I've always been my family's always been poor, so we never actually like owned our property.
Not enough for the Jehovah's Witness to steal from? That's sad. Brutal.
Exactly. So we never like actually had an address. We lived next to my grandparents, and it was like on their property, so we didn't even like have an address. So maybe I think they were religious people. I don't know if they were Jehovah's Witnesses though.
Wow. Yeah, I mean that's one. But Zane, you were about to say something. Sorry. Do you recall?
No, it's okay. Yeah, I was just gonna say Zach was saying about how keeping incredulous information from being promulgated.
Promulgated, yes.
Would be like that was the whole idea of the credit social credit score, right?
As far as reliable is your share. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's like totally working in theory, though. I mean, most of these videos, they only allow certain kinds of people that have already made their conclusions find them. So there's that. It makes it really impossible for you to
I blame Big Dung.
I mean, so yeah, okay, Noel, do you have thoughts on this though? Like the idea that like the cow dung is venerated and worshipped, so it could be mystical, like, and maybe has healing properties, or is that just a anthropological
mushrooms?
I think it's hard to know what people thought a long time ago, even though we have so much textual record. Like, it's really hard to contextualize as much as we would like to. One thing is I can say about the cow is venerated as sort of a giver, like, or a mother, like, so a datra or a matra. So some, if you didn't have like a farm, as long as you had like a cow, you could have the cow eat grass, and you can get this nutritious protein from the cow. So it was protected in that sense. I haven't looked too much into Ayurveda or what is the value of cow dung or urine. I know that villagers use it. They make patties and put food on it.
No, that's your next paper. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh gosh,
there's this stuff called Shilajit or
Shilajit. That's a rock mineral oil. That's
I use that
mineral oil.
Yeah,
I've heard of that. Yeah,
there's
I
only
like the moringa tree. The moringa
cannot-
tree is really good too.
I cannot confirm. I don't know much about it. All I know is that it's a rock mineral oil, and it's mentioned a long time ago, and people are still using it. It's getting popularity. But
What's the name of it?
It's spelled Shilajit.
Shilajit.
I've used it for 7 or 8 years, and I do it for like an on and an off period. And it's an Ayurvedic adaptogen. You're actually starting to see it used more.
Oh, this is the bad guy from Fern Gully. I see. I remember that.
Yes, it's the Black Ooze from the X-Files too. It's actually the most important medicine in the Ayurvedic pantheon of things that are used. Shilajit. It's only comes up. You see it on the tarot card when the valley floods. When you have the flood after the thaw, it comes out of the cracks in the rock, and it comes up only in the spring and after the monsoon season, which is closer to the fall, from my understanding. But it comes up and it's harvested as this mineral pitch.
This is the real Shilajit.
I get it from a guy. It's like $300 for like a little thing, but it's
what?
I would push back a little bit, if I may, against the idea that's the most important. I think that it may have been too expensive for even the doctors to acquire a long time ago. So I say this probably be like reserved for like kings.
It's a tar resin.
That substance kind of looked like
a couple places.
Oh, no, it's not.
That substance looks like smut, like corn smut or like rye smut, and that's what you're connecting the substance to, right? Is that sort of rotted organic material that leads to the lysergic acids.
Yes, exactly. David's talked about this. This is the green snake.
What that Shilajit looks like a similar type substance, a sort of rotted, maybe. I don't know what it's made out of.
Well, I was about to say it's made out of stuff that hasn't ever totally thawed or totally frozen. So it's literally hundreds of thousands of years of plant matter that shares the same genetics and has it keeps the thread as far as like that part of the plant kingdom. So the idea is that you have these original almost like how we look at stem cells, these minerals and like amino acids and alkaline things, like you dissolve it in water and stir it around.
Well, I was just going to connect it to one more thing, is that rye, or those rye smuts that lead to the LSD like properties, you make a migraine medicine out of, right? They synthesize shit from that and they make medicine for migraines. Well, I imagine people would consider their migraine medication to be pretty spiritual and pretty important. And if we framed it in the right way, maybe the essence of this black, dense plant matter is really in the medication that people are taking in the West for their migraines.
That, and it's used for a number of different things. Like I find that it makes me horny. And it also it leads to a clear headedness. So that's why a lot of people like to use it.
Most underrated aphrodisiac, mustard seed. No, I don't know.
But this goes right into.
I thought you were going to say mustard gas.
Oh, God!
This just goes into the
black is an interesting color
all just
for
pure Negredo,
spiritual reasons
that we're talking about, right?
Wait, Noel, can you elaborate on why
black is a important color in the sort of Vedic life world, for spiritual reasons.
Has all the colors,
the deities, some of the highest deities are dark in color, and the meaning of that is the kind of unprobable depths, the profound depths of the infinite that one cannot peer all the way into it. It's the word is gambira. It's profoundly impenetrable. It's dark, mysterious. So black actually is associated with spiritual things sometimes, not as in, in the West, we have like a kind of preference for like white or something, but all the colors.
What about white? What about white in Veda?
It's associated with knowledge usually. Like Saraswati is wearing white. It's associated with clarity. It's typical.
Well,
it does share that. It does share that, but I was just pointing to the black has a different significance. It's like sort of a profound, dark depths of the universe.
I've been
Saturn,
taking
maybe?
it for like 7.
Yeah,
No,
night
longer than that. I think I've been taking it for 8 or 9 years.
Well, this is just literally the alchemical system, the Negredo, the shit, the dark tarry substance of which you go through all the different colors to the, what is it? The albedo, the white, the purifying. I mean,
right.
But the
It says,
Western
like,
doubting
nature's
Thomas
alchemy pot.
system has to have the actual substance. Actually has to touch God, right? Poke his fingers into the body.
Unlike the
And so-
clephotic shells, unlike the clephotic aspect. Sorry to interrupt, but yeah, continue. It actually has to be the Malkuth that has to have the earthen rot.
I mean, is
Like,
this
people
guy?
think about the 80s, like how the 80s had so much heroin, cocaine, amphetamines. But I think the last 20 years, there has been a higher class of people with more education, a more widespread audience who have taken pure amphetamines, pure drugs like cocaine and Adderall, pure drugs and heroin and OxyContin. We have this like insane tornado of chaos magicians who are riding this fucking.
I mean, I take Adderall every day.
Yeah, I mean, you're like Steve Spielberg in 1982 on the set of Close Encounters, man. Like you're doing 3 movies at once. I mean,
No,
That's a lot of crystals to talk to
I have a
aliens with.
question for the group. This is very simple. I'm not learned at all in the Western alchemical things. Can somebody tell me about how like earth materials are actually used by the alchemists beyond just the mere conceptual materials that are famous for in the text? I mean, when I think of alchemy, I think of like a chemist, like mixing up potions and stuff. Can somebody
Zane,
speak to that?
you
Can
got
you
this one?
clarity about that? I'm just ignorant about that subject.
Well, I did study more. They kind of did a more psychological interpretation of it. Albert Benjamin did, but
With
he
the
also.
rubedo and the
Mm-hmm.
Greedo, yeah. So you have there's the what do you call it? The analogs that they had to talk about it in terms of sulfur, in terms of like copper. So actually, I can go in my notes, like where the Philosopher's Stone, where I was talking about that. I was
I just remembered.
taught a lot of cool stuff by Lon Milo Duquette over the pandemic. He did all these classes, which actually anybody can go back and rewatch, but it's cool to do it at the time because he made himself open for basically like office hours and so there's this thing.
I would say in a real quick pinch, left-handed Western occultism would be, hedonistic, energized enthusiasm in a Crowleyan sense. And the right-handed path of Western is ceremonial but religious, robotic, less spiritual.
I feel like that's only in the last 200 years. If you go, and this is why I kind of agreed with it. Was it William? Bill, you said this, that the 16th century alchemy is becoming more important now that they've accomplished the 18th century work to accomplish the 19th century work. That was to build the tools to do the 16th century stuff. And so for a long time, they're like, well, look, you're not going to be messing around with actual dragons. You should probably just like use your imagination more. But if you look at the Voynich manuscript and you start to look at some of the alchemical properties, what were they talking about? Yeah, they're talking about taking material, going through the Arabic system of alchemy, which is to believe that there are these like volcanic factories underground that are producing the elements, the minerals, the making the gold, and that you can put material back into the earth and the earth will sprout back out gold and whatever you want from it, right?
Right. So that I just found my notes and it says
the very material.
the three cosmic players responsible for creating the mode of fulfillment of the great work are Mercury, Earth, and Sun. So when properly balanced, sulfur plus salt plus mercury equals vitriol, which vitriol is, it stands for a lot of different things, but basically it's Latin for visita interiorum, like
Visit the interior of the earth or some shit like that, right?
Yeah, and through purification or fire, you'll find the Philosopher's Stone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so the thing is, the Philosopher's Stone, everyone keeps telling you, and as the time goes on, oh, it's a metaphor. It's like a spiritual
I got something
thing.
to say. I got a piece of the puzzle here. At least in the old Indian text, the Philosopher's Stone is actually an object.
Right. And that's the thing. But if you go back far enough to the 1600s, it's not that far. They're always talking about it as a physical object that can be made, and it has to do with something else. Some certain things have to happen. People have to die. But then you get a Philosopher's Stone out of the bag,
Right, and I think it has to do with this like high technology for creation that basically goes against the laws of physics and ruins the universe or destroys the universe. Maybe, or basically like signals the coming of the reverse of the Big Bang.
Right. What was the deal with the Philosopher's Stone prediction? Someone did this. They said Philosopher's Stone price prediction. No, that's an actual crypto coin. But there was this thing. There was the new Nostradamus public data. They said, hey, the Philosopher's Stone will be rediscovered in 2030. That's the next time that we'll start to see the Philosopher's Stone, which everyone's looking for it. You got the Methuselah Foundation. You got all these groups, Aubrey de Grey working on immortality serums, Ray Kurzweil. What do you think? We're heading towards
Joseph Farrell wrote a book called Philosopher's Stone and the Search for Exotic Matter, Alchemy and the Search for Exotic Matter, something like that. And I'm not gonna be able to speak very well about it, but I think one section, Joseph Farrell.
Yeah, Joseph Farrell, isn't it?
Yeah, P. Farrell. Yeah, that's the book, and he goes into all kinds of different interpretations. One of he talks about white powder gold as
white
being
powder. Everyone should know.
Yeah, not white powder. Ormus and yeah.
White powder gold, which is like a sort of strange substance that this guy discovered. But he's also talking about in relation to the Nazi bell and technology to control time, right, or to affect the ether or medium.
It's like Ormus energy that it was the same thing that they ate in the
like Soma maybe.
In the 40 days, 40 nights, they had this technology with the ark that gave them Ormus that fell from the sky like gold. And they didn't know that it's actually just human piss and that you just have to age it.
Or it's literally bodies turned to powder with gold from laser light focus, right? The idea of the Archimedean lens to just burn something into straight powder, which all these biblical stories talk about persons and gold being turned to powder, right? Like when Moses makes the line and they kill everyone on the other side, then they melt down the gold into powder, which is you don't just do that. That takes a lot of work. That's how you get this Ormus. What do you think about Ormus?
Yo guys, hi guys. Andreas invited me last second. I just got so excited having you talk about Silajit. Yo, hey guys. So this is Silajit.
I saw you on your. You've got some too.
Yeah, of course. I'm using it for years. I've been telling Andreas about it for sure. And this is the, Ayurvedic panacea. You can look up, it contains pretty much all minerals you can imagine. And here we go, of course, into biological transmutation by Kevran, to what extent can we actually change alchemy within our own bodies and create elements, which supposedly is impossible, right? And then just one thing to the longevity or exotic matter discussion. What's recent now is C60, you may have heard of C60, which is, like an oil and supposedly also contained in shungite. You can put it in the water.
Let me,
this supposedly,
is it a different thing? That's not the
C60.
Shungite is a heavy
different.
metal that will purify water.
Yes,
so this is a crystal. That looks like a crystal. Yes, so it's a crystal.
This is shungite. This is Silajit.
Yes. I have shungite that's tumbled and it's shinier a little bit. So the raw stuff that you have, that's supposedly a little bit better, right?
Exactly. Yeah, right. So this supposedly, from what I know from my gem friend, this is when it's not oxidized yet, and supposedly over X amount of years or process, it can oxidize and then it turns into the lower quality, not elite shungite. So in the C60 is just interesting because they did the studies with rats and they poisoned them, and the rats survived and lived twice as long and died only after they got rid of this. So I just want to point out also Shilajit you can find on eBay. You don't need to pay hundreds of dollars for it. There's a lot of it in Russia, so it may be a bit more expensive now to get. My reseller just fluked on me with the order I made. I never received it, and I think
that's interesting because I just saw like a 1976 medical journal that I was translating earlier from the Soviet Union talking about the use of the Shilajit for bone fracture regrowth. So
they used to use shungite as the main means of water cleaning in parts of Russia because it's so widely available, as opposed to different charcoal filtering. They would use shungite, and it does actually oxidize the stone. There's a chemical hydrogen reaction that actually takes place.
Dang, I want that water. That's the water we needed.
Shungite stuff is good. I mean, shungite
water.
Hey, what was John Dee's black magic mirror stone?
Ooh, I can. Here, hold on. I have. Yeah.
Is that just obsidian, or what do you got?
Just to add a little note here, the Philosopher's Stone, as it appears in some texts, is also called Suryakanta. It was a jewel that was given by the sun god to one of his devotees. So. It appears that sometimes maybe some of these exotic materials may be hand-me-down from like greater societies.
Is this right, Suryakanta? Did I spell it right? Or how do I look for this Philosopher's Stone?
Peru has a tale about a stone as well that could a stone that could melt, like it can use the power of the sun. Peru has that story, just kind of like a connection between that. It's interesting. Both.
I'm sorry, I missed what you said, Zane.
Oh, just that some of these things may actually be like these
the Philosopher's Stone.
Exotic states of matter may actually be given or bestowed from some other higher society.
Would it be fair to say that Eastern societies had matriarchal empires, or at least large scale systems in the matriarchy, but the Western areas never did? That was strictly patriarchal. Is that fair to say?
Too much of a generalization, but I would say ultimately no.
Okay.
Anytime I would say most terrestrial things have male patriarchies, but I mean I'm sure there's matriarchies. A lot of more tribal things have more matriarchy, but when you get a more cosmopolis, it seems like it exalts the male to some extent.
Whoa, we got here. What's that? Is it obsidian? No.
This is rainbow obsidian.
Whoa.
Whoa.
At one point, another one of my ex-wives and I were going to buy a gem and mineral store, and actually got to spend about $30,000 worth of the previous owners.
You can see the computer inside in it. You can. It's right there.
Dang.
Yeah, right. No, but this I was getting into like sacred geometry, and so I drew this. I drew a Sri Yantra. And I had like used pictures that I had taken in different places on vacation, and I gave it to them and framed it just because I loved going in there. And literally a week later, they were like, "Hey, have you thought about maybe buying our business? We're going to retire." So I like opened up this weird portal between them and tried really hard to get this place. It would have been cool, but I'm glad I didn't, because it would have really taken my love of that stuff and turned it into a business that would have failed or just been really difficult. The marriage dissolved, and so it's all good. But I got to learn a lot and meet all, like in the Denver Gem and Mineral Show would be where they'd get their basically their entire inventory of stones for the year. But I had given it to them to polish, and it was going to be really expensive to get because they were such a cool shop and had like rough pieces, because it's the School of Mines, which is a world-renowned school for geology, is here in Colorado, actually, where the earthquake monitoring place is here in Golden at the School of Mines. Which sometimes when people visit, I'll say School of Mines, and they'll be like, "Wait, the School of Mimes," and then I get a little upset, because that would be a cooler thing to have.
That would be pretty sweet.
Just as what about the gems? I'm not sure if you already said it.
This is rainbow obsidian, and I'd given him this rough piece to polish, which would ended up being really expensive, and I just forgot about it. And they realized they had it, and they're like, "Hey, Zach, we have this rainbow obsidian, which is what John Dee's scrying mirror was made out of."
Okay.
And so yeah, I actually had it.
Whoa, that's that. I think it's a Dio song, "Rainbow in the Dark."
Rainbow obsidian, yeah. So
like a rainbow in the dark. Something like that.
I just got to share this other quick, real interesting thing. I found this at the thrift store at Goodwill. It was a piece of art, and it's from Imagine Art, and it said this. This work of art has been created by artists with developmental disabilities, and they're doing these things for the glory of God. And so then, like,
no, that's awesome though. Whoa, that's amazing art though.
It's really cool.
Yeah, no, it's like basically like a version of the Sigillum D, but like this developmentally retarded kid, like he made it, and like there's all these like griffins on it, and like
wow,
I don't think he probably was like very well studied. And who knows?
Yeah,
but,
maybe
like,
just a savant, or maybe he's a medium.
Yeah.
A medium.
Yeah, I mean, like it's all there, and so this is what I keep my rainbow obsidian on. But I feel like it's sacrilegious.
No, that's subgenius. That's the most subgenius thing you could do. But Raph, you were about to say.
No, just as we're on the gems, so this is a bigger piece of noble shungite, and maybe you had mentioned it because I wasn't there for 1 minute, that supposedly officially all of the shungite only comes from one place, and it's a meteorite. Maybe you already brought this up. But it's also a bit strange that they say it's a meteorite, and yeah, I don't know. But
yeah, I mean,
interesting properties for sure.
What's the other one? Moldavite. Moldavite's from a meteorite as well.
Yeah, Moldavite is sand glass. That's there's a lot of it in Tunisia, is where you find a lot of Moldavite.
Oh, really? I know that they got in Czech Republic. There was a bunch in the, it's a huge center for it. I've got a few pieces.
Yeah. In Russia is where you find all the Moldavite. There's another one that's this Libyan sand glass.
Oh, right.
You find in Tunisia. But this, the Moldavite, that stuff's really powerful. Really.
Yeah, the first time I got a piece, so I was going by this rock shop on in Venice Beach. It was like the Lincoln and Fifth or something one by the Safeway, or Vaughn's, they call them there. And I'm walking by a rock shop, and there's this little lady, and she's Eastern European, and there's this giant freaking quartz crystal, and I mean it's like 8 to 10 feet tall, and it's falling down towards her, and she's trying to wrestle it, and both of us just kind of wiggle it. Like I run into the shop, like I'm walking by, and I run into the shop, and I help push her stone back up so it doesn't fall on the ground. And so she gives me a piece of Moldavite, and she's like, "This is like the greatest stone. It'll help you magnetic tuning fork to all over the world, but like with less hippie in her diction." But yeah, go ahead. What were you going to say about Moldavite?
Well, Moldavite is one of the first stones that ever gave me like cold pricklies, or like I just like I'm sensitive in some ways, but in other ways I'm just too pragmatic. And so with the, when I was learning about the gems and stuff, like I hear so many people be like, yeah, like it really like does this or that, which is like what some like cracker stupid ass piece of shit like tried to like do to market their fucking overstock inventory of like whatever stone it was. There's a certain amount of like just BS, but I will say Moldavite, like, oof.
Yeah, it's a weird one. As soon as I got that, I was traveling a lot. I remember too, like it felt powerful. I don't know, but like rocks always, you can make yourself feel powerful about them. But what do you think? This is a thing?
I think it was a remnant of like the end of days for some level of species here, because it's such a huge deposit in Russia, and it's really, I mean, it would have been a problem. Likely maybe it happened before there was a lot of invertebrate life on the planet. I don't know. I'm sure there's probably some sort of guesstimate on how many millions of years ago that specimen came from. But look at that.
Dang, yeah, right? That's nuts. And then the idea of these, so the Moldavite tektites that are embedded deep into the ground. So you're just shattering of like super glass everywhere. And there's a number of these spots, which are just all over places where they have stories of super like, gods that lived a long time, were super healthy, had magical technology.
Right. So that Libyan sand glass, I think that's talked about in the Mahabharata. You'll probably know better than anyone, but I know that there's and some of the like the stuff that they talk about in that war where like maybe because like the nuclear or like some sort of mega bomb that created all this like Libyan sand glass or sand tears or like the desert I think they call it a number of different things, but specifically that one that's closer into the Indus River Valley there, I think it's spoken of in some ancient texts.
There's it's very large. I've only translated parts of it. It's about 100,000 couplets, which makes about like 200,000 lines of text, like in verse. So it might be there. I haven't read it, but I do know that there was fantastic warfare going on, according to the text, and it seems like it's possible there could be some transformations of matter going on there.
They mentioned it in Ancient Aliens for what it's worth.
Ancient Aliens is secretly like Hare Krishna research, which is cool. I think it's like what Michael Cramo's work, like he did a forbidden archaeology. That's
an interesting connection.
Because the people interested in the Indian stuff are interested in the idea of like a world cosmopolis. The Mahabharata is kind of like that coming to an end. Like all these like warriors from like all different societies across the globe came and like got in a big fight. But
then they decide they were cool, like Hanuman, and like at some point they're like,
that's a different battle.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
a weird synchronicity.
That's even older, possibly.
A weird synchronicity. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
The last warp tour I went to, I got the Bhagavad Gita for a Cliff Bar. One of the Hare Krishnas gave me his Bhagavad Gita copy for a Cliff Bar at the last warp tour. Yeah,
fair trade.
Yeah, that's rad. I mean, so that's interesting. The idea that the Veda is coming to the Dvapara Yuga. Like, are they preparing? Is this kind of like a end is not revelation?
The Vedas are atemporal. They're like consisting of they're like eternal sound vibration, but then they're written down by a sage named Vyas. Actually, they're spoken by a sage named Vyas, who actually is dividing them. And there's originally one Veda, and he's dividing. The original one Veda is Om, right? And it's getting divided into 3 parts and then a 4th part. But the writer is Ganesh.
That, like the way you bounce sound off of things, like if you're bouncing that off of somebody who, like, I imagine over years probably wrote it down because everything was oral.
Yeah, they say Vyas. Vyas is the one who's divided the Veda into 3 portions. So that's why you have the Rig, Sama, Yajur, and then Ganesh is writing it down.
Is there an analog there to the fall of Babel, like the Tower of Babel, and how language, like
possibly because, like I said, if it seems like according to the linguistic evidence that there's some kind of cosmopolis going on. We also have talked about Tartaria before, right, Andres? And so there's some kind of large, maybe mercantile network or just a cultural network. And then somehow it seems like it grinds to a halt after like a couple thousand years ago. And then you get these like more fractured civilizations.
Big mud.
Separate. But big mud. If you eliminated all big mud. If you eliminated all that administrative and warrior bloat, which was like Krishna's agenda to like eliminate all the politicians and all the warriors and, because they're considered to be a burden on the earth, you might get a fracturing.
Well, once Big Mud cornered like the pottery market, they had these containers to store like so much more. So, they were shaking up the way of things, the distribution networks, because Big Mud didn't want people to have access to the technology.
Have you seen the ghost cities? Like, so when he talks about Big Mud, like we think about the mud flood in Tartaria, and we've got these Chinese super cities that exist right now in Turkey and all over the world, but even in Africa, but the ancient ones, you got these pictures of everybody showing up to these places. Where's the example? I love the one that's just like these empty city street zones where there's just no one there. Like they've built and manufactured, like there's an emptying out of the old cities before people are moved back into them. Can't find the best example. Oh, this is also good. Suicide. I mean, if you guys have a sewer alligator thought, I mean, this is your chance. I don't know.
Yeah, those are some rough cretins. We have an alligator farm in the San Luis Valley where like very near where the UFO watchtower is in this little town called Hooper. There's an alligator farm, and there's stories of people that have gone there and like gotten baby alligators and then ended up having to like release them into the municipal like metro
sewers and stuff, right?
Was it Grant Morrison who made the connection to like the Fool card and the sewers underneath the city?
I got a good one.
Rebirth of the Tarot or something like that.
Here's a good Sue that just occurred to me, or sewer alligator, by way of the movie Alligator, which was the final. I don't know if it was the final film, but one of the last films of Sue Lyon, who was in Lolita. So Alligator, the movie is just about a giant alligator that's been unleashed on New York City, and Sue Lyon.
I haven't heard of that.
It's great. It's got Robert Forster in it.
This looks a lot of fun, actually. Yeah.
It reminds me of that movie coming out called Cocaine Bear.
Oh yeah, that'd be good. I can't wait.
Yeah, but so I don't know what it means, but Sue Lyon resonates pretty strongly in my little world.
Yeah, why? What's up with Sue Lyon? She's been in a lot of interesting 60s movies.
Yeah, I mean, she was Lolita for the main thing, that being the iconic role. It's directed by Stanley Kubrick. And but she also figures into the whole Laurel Canyon matrix, and due to her relationship with the Mama and Papa's folks, and
elaborate on all that. Laurel Canyon and Mama and Papa's.
Oh man,
there's so much there. David McGowan has that book, Weird Scenes Inside the Weird Tales Inside the Canyon. And
yeah, that's a great book. I mean, where do I start? It's basically a secret cabal of cultists in Hollywood, I think,
not
related
so
to intelligence agencies. Yeah, not so secret, exactly.
Lookout Mountain, which is like a government film facility where you have like these people that had contracts from John Wayne to Marilyn Monroe that they still like, we've never seen the footage. They've never declassified that.
Yeah, well, it's sort of, it's not just the 60s too. It goes back to probably the 20s and the inception of the whole town and Hollywood Babylon, and
there's the sink. So
the Black Dahlia is another aspect of it. That
you have the Joker, Jared Leto, living there now, who's basically the Fool card, which you see the flood of the Indus River Valley on the Fool card itself, which relates to the Silajit, or and then we're getting back into alligators and the Nile. And the river Styx.
So also, the river Ganga is personified as riding on an alligator.
Yeah, right. The Wheel of Fortune tarot thing. Yeah.
Well, then, I mean, the Black Dahlia is the other bit of it, which is sort of this sort of almost, you could call it, well, basically the thesis of one Steve Hodel is that his father was the Black Dahlia killer, and that he was basically, it had all the trappings of a very Elizabeth Short, Betty. It had all the trappings of a ritual murder, but his idea was that his dad, who was great buddies with Man Ray and other surrealist artists, that basically the killing of Elizabeth Short was a work of art from his father's idea.
It was like a spiritualist thing that happened, right?
Well, I mean, it was him trying to one up his buddies like Man Ray and all these people, and he had a great admirer of de Sade, and so
Marquis de Sade,
and so how does it relate to Laurel Canyon is that basically he lived in the Frank Lloyd Wright house, that was designed like a Mayan pyramid in downtown LA.
I have a brick from a Frank Lloyd Wright house.
Yeah. And let's see.
Allegedly, guys, calm down.
So and then it relates. What I think I've brought to it uniquely is that through my whole numeric crypto-cryptological connections of dates and stuff, I've sort of connected it pretty intensely between George Hodel and John Huston, who they were great friends in real life. That's no secret, but also connecting it to Roman Polanski. And there's sort of this narrative emerges about Kubrick because he made Lolita in the 60s starring Sue Lyon, and he was in the midst of all this milieu, and then he left and basically got the fuck out of there.
Right.
And
you think that was maybe an inspiration for a later film?
All of them, yeah. I mean, maybe, definitely.
Eyes wide shut action.
Sure. With The Shining too.
I didn't mean to say Fidelio. I meant to say Fellatio.
Well, yeah. Well, Jack Nicholson obviously was a cornerstone of that scene, and he's in The Shining playing Jack. And but also, you know, Kubrick kind of put himself on that role, like overlapped his own personality with that. So I don't know. It's sort of a struggle in my mind of Kubrick's sort of role in everything, whether he was exposing these things or cleverly kind of celebrating them. Right. That same goes for someone like David Lynch, who the movie Mulholland Drive is completely all about the Black Dahlia and the mythos of Hollywood. It's sort of like the Black Dahlia is this like formative, sacrificial, religious murder that set the scene and tone for the entire century of what was to come.
I think it's more complicated than that because of the Black Dahlia, as far as it relates to David Lynch, is like his psyche. So like, yes, he equates that with his psyche as well. So it becomes like this link to his ability to use his dreams in a way that he doesn't have to make sense of it, because it's all fear and horror and body trauma and body horror.
Yeah. And when I say the movie is all about that, obviously it's not all about that or that. And I'm not even certain that he's intending that. Although what
do you guys think about Jodorowsky's Dune, right? Because like I liked Lynch enough until I think about the fact that they hired him to make Dune. They stopped Jodorowsky from doing his thing. To me, that's like how they destroyed Han Solo with Ron Howard. I don't know. But what do you guys think? It would have been great.
It would have been great. That was such a great documentary. And then, I
haven't seen that documentary, but I feel like David Lynch, if anything, was just used as like a pawn in that situation. But
yeah. I mean, it was for him like a cash grab at a time where he like really needed the money because, you know, Blue Velvet, and like he had some level of success, but like he came.
It's his Spartacus.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
yeah, totally.
For his yeah, right.
But it was good for him because out of that, he kind of realized that he didn't want to make a movie without having Final Cut, and so he got that in all of his other movies after Dune, which resulted in Blue Velvet, which is masterpiece. But yeah, he made Mulholland Drive, and it came out in 2001 also, which kind of strikes me as interesting since 9/11 is like another kind of ritual. And it's all connected.
Mulholland Drive then, and what it does as far as the canyon. And so what Mulholland Drive does, if you look at Laurel Canyon, like it's this roundabout way where like even the fact that he used that is a interesting thing because
it's like the going to the sun road in The Shining, the opening shots of just the winding road through the wilderness.
Winding thing that's like very not obvious which way it's going. Whereas like Wonderland Drive or Los Cielo Drive or some of these other places, they're right off of the canyon road. So like if you're gonna go down Mulholland, you've got to be like really intentional to do it.
It's like Bavaria, right? So wait, the mysterious basilisk, Raph, you sent me this. What is the story here? Legendary hybrid creature existed not only in ancient Egypt but also in medieval Vienna. What's the deal with the Viennese basilisk? You're still there. I don't know. Also, Zane, you probably have thoughts on this. Have you seen this before? The idea of this?
I remember hearing it's like a thought experiment, right?
You're muted, or no, that's where did he go? Our French friend is gone.
He's Austrian.
The French connection is lost.
Oh, that's a bummer. Well, that's okay. Well, we'll get it back. But when the master baker, Martin Garbil, sent his maid to the well in the courtyard of Chantelaterngasse in 7 to fetch water, she was scared to death. A crowd rushed over. The master's baker's assistant looked against the well shaft from which a very horrible stench arose. The courageous fellow lowered himself into the shaft on a rope, and when the crowd heard a piercing scream from inside the well, they immediately pulled him out again. What the apprentice had to report amazed everyone, because he saw a strange creature. It had a jagged, scaly tail, glowing eyes, and warty feet, as if composed of a rooster, a snake, and a toad. Right. So this is the Austrian chupacabra.
Yeah, this was just. Sorry, guys. This was just my sewer crocodile reference. That was all. So.
Oh, no, that's good.
It's interesting because it's not so easy to find information on it. I know it because it's like a Viennese myth, and supposedly it can petrify you looking at you. And it's one of these other hybrid creatures. The other thing you might enjoy is the Lindwurm, Lindwurm, very famous in Carinthia, and Lindwurm or Linden, exactly. And that's all these mythological creatures, which are like, on the county flags and monuments and all of that. And you're always like, what is this? Like, what?
I don't see
Targaryens,
I don't see a date there. So, or 11th century. Okay. So I was going to say
maybe 1212 officially, but whatever this means.
I was thinking it might be a result of some sort of French Indochina, like food gas related to like pho or things that like very white people are not used to digest.
I think it's just like there were giant creatures. Like if you start to type in extinct medieval creatures, you'll find that there are just tons of I mean, if you just type in extinct creatures from this generation, rhinos and things are gone. But there was some crazy stuff that was still alive 400 years ago. Just straight up.
I saw a video of a sturgeon the other day that was like 40 feet long that totally looked like the Loch Ness. And it was not a deep fake. It was like a real ass video of a scary ass giant fish that turned like a snake.
Yeah. I mean, these are
terrifying.
So, I mean, you get a fish that's like 20 to 40 feet. I mean, sure, you could get a 40-foot one, but like, look at this is already bigger than a man. So they have these giant creatures, and people were talking about how they were fighting giant creatures a lot of the time. And then they're like, oh, that was made up because we don't have any more of them because they all died out. Because the shocker is a lot of these, like a crocodile is cold blooded. So if you just hunt them at like 5 a.m., they don't move a lot, so it's as long as it's cold, you should be fine. I don't know.
Do you think this thing is connected to the Yale and the Queen's creatures?
Yeah, so that was the next thought was because of Beowulf, right? Because the Beowulf myth is all about the idea that the serpent that he fights, he also sleeps with, right? Angelina Jolie as the evil serpent, you know what I mean? But so she's this dragon, and because he mates with the dragon, he gets to have the kingdom above it, and that's like a big part of the royal myths that they're into the dragon family.
You say royal dragon. I can't think of Angelina Jolie without thinking about her blood. Her and Billy Bob.
Right.
You talk about royal blood, and then you got Billy Bob, who she had her
William Robert. Right. Yeah.
Blood on it. They used to wear each other's blood.
Yeah, the blood rituals. But again, yeah, William. A guy goes by Billy Bob. Hard to trust. Sounds to me like a.
I don't know.
That's a William Robert. That's
real quick.
That's a William Robert if I've ever seen one.
Sling Blade, right?
Yeah, that's William Robert. That's what I look at it like. Okay, so someone tell me about Dune. Who said that just now?
Dune. We can all agree that Avatar basically just ripped off Dune, right?
I
don't know.
Story.
I feel like ripped off is too good for what Avatar is. Like, I don't really love Avatar. It's like maybe just like grew up in California. But it's not like the big, it's like, okay, Smurfs in 3D, great. But Dune is more about Islam and about scarcity economy. So it's the other side of it, maybe. But maybe, I guess if you want to get to the idea of their resources are being taken later, but Dune is like, they don't have a lot of resources left. It's not quite the same as conquering the Pangea for unobtainium.
You got the young dude who goes to another planet and he just magically is able to like, blend in. It's like he was born there, falls in love with the rebel chick, and they're gonna fight this war.
I'll entertain it.
All right, so I would say this: that Cameron's rollout of the next 3 avatars, I bet you he has been consulting with Hodorowski the whole time about developing the spirituality with the ecology, because I rewatched Avatar again, and I didn't remember in 2009 that the great spirit of that place was Aya. I mean, if he called it Aya, everyone would have known what he was talking about. But there is...
You mean AI?
Ayahuasca.
Yeah,
No, I know.
ayahuasca, of course.
Where's our boy Eddie Lynn? Didn't he do ayahuasca with James Cameron?
So it's this very archaic revival, natural spirit, tree soul shit. And 2010, 2009, I mean, obviously Cameron had his finger on the pulse. Not that it was a very subtle pulse, but I mean, at least he knew where we would be 10 years later.
True. I mean, you know what? Every time
that what we're going to see in this 3D technology with the new avatar, and I believe that Hodorowski probably had a very big involvement in how that they
Dude, I really hope that's manifested.
Design this. Because if you remember, the flora, the fauna, and the beasts in Avatar was what really sold it. But let me.
It was gonna end that the Dune world becomes the Avatar world. That was his ending.
Right.
So you think there's gonna be some sort of
here's the
cosmogony?
Let me just finish this.
Yeah.
Is that the 3D technology with the 4K or 8K or however they're gonna spin it in the IMAX theater? This is just an audition for the metaverse. Right? This dragon that we're talking about, that the 16th century occultists and magicians were talking about, they were talking about a technology that you actually put on and actually enter. It wasn't a drug anymore that anyone,
dragon.
It was like a book that you could just give to someone and they opened it and they understood the message. It's the briefcase in Pulp Fiction. You know what I mean? They knew that this technology would have a light that would just give you information. They just didn't know what it would look like or how long it would take to make it. But they started planning the future based around this technology, 600 years ago.
Well, our fantasy
dragon that they're talking about is when the public gets their hands on this technology. It's like, how are we going to deal with the power of when the masses hook up to this technology that sets them free? Like literally, what VR, internet, Bitcoin, and electronic vehicles and shit is going to provide the public is
enslaves them in a false reality that destroys Gaia. For
Zach, I want you to pan out right now. Put us all on the screen for 1 second.
Yeah, I can see everybody.
I think the enslavement we're in the midst of it right now. I think it's been this 600-year period between 1600 and where we're going. I think the enslavement is going to be ending. You know what I mean? We're not exactly free.
We've never been free.
Don't you think we're going the other direction? We're like
the next.
You gotta learn how to ride the dragon.
I feel like
cool.
Yes. It's this new technology that you have to. This is the first technology where you have to be the participant, not just the observer.
It's a chimera.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's a chimera dragon.
It's a chimera. It's that Hera plus the other thing that we were talking about.
Meet the new boss. It's the same as the old boss. Now it's just like you have to like update your firmware.
If you look up Makara, Andreas. Show them the chimera from the Hindu pantheon. It's the thing that guards all the gates.
Makara.
Yeah, Makara.
How am I gonna spell this?
That's right.
Chimera, just one less U.
Yeah, so it's just showing that it's. Oh no, you had it right the first time. But
really, there's a U in there?
No. It was showing it on the images. Sorry. Yeah.
Chimera. Yeah. Okay.
You can just look up the Makara. So
there we go.
So this thing is the vehicle.
Dude, that fish has a mustache. That's right.
Yeah, it's a vehicle for.
It's an elephant too.
Whoa!
It's everything.
Fish.
Ganesh is hanging out.
Yeah, and there's a similar.
It could be a river dolphin, which is like a fish and a mammal.
Well, yeah, that's what it comes in a bunch of depictions. It's always mixed with like.
Sometimes it means a shark. Sometimes it means a crocodile. Sometimes it means some kind of mystical creature.
And dolphin is a very popular Greek name.
Yeah, this is the Capricorn, right? This is what it represents. Makara is Capricorn in their astrology.
It also has an association with the flag of Kama. So like the god of Kama, Kamadev, has a flag with a Makara on it. So it has something to do with desire.
It's the mount of a lot of the river gods and the ocean gods, right? There's Varuna.
Kind of alligator wolf looking thing there.
Yeah, so they ride it, and this is the thing that transfers them across the waters or whatever. And the water is what you got to pay attention to, because that's really what we all are. That is our soul and everything. And this is the thing that eats your soul or eats your things that you go to.
No, what do you got?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
If you can ride that on.
Wait. Hold on. Noel, say what you're gonna say.
No, the makara doesn't eat your soul. The makara is like a neutral, and it's a vahana. A vahana means a vehicle.
Yeah, so you have to pay it a token to get.
So I'll tell you an example of a makara that would be applicable to the human soul, and that is the human is the vahana or the carrier of Kubera, the god of wealth. So wealth rides the human does not ride wealth. So if anything was to be eating your soul, it would be maybe the greed.
It's not, yeah, but it's not like, I'm not saying that like as the direct
those
thing.
Animals are associated with more like
it tests your soul. It has to test your soul, and it's a transfer of
It can
the information of what you are that needs to get across those waters is really what it does. I'm talking about
the fact that it's associated
not
with
what
a
they're
crocodile. If it's associated with a crocodile and with a shark, I mean, those things like to eat you. So if it doesn't,
check out what I posted in the chat too, Andreas. Very interesting.
Well, sometimes the gods go to war on these vehicles, so it could be it could also be used for righteousness. You know.
Oh, this is interesting. What's this about?
Yeah, it's all of it. Yeah.
Let me jump back. This is the black hole at the center of the Earth plays a role in the biggest systems of telecommunication for conducting DNAs, dark DNAs, molecular. What is this?
It's basically Makara, I think. I don't know.
Whoa. Okay. Recently, some scientists from NASA have claimed that there may be a black hole-like structure at the center of the Earth. We show what the. All right.
I mean,
we show that the existence of
interpret it.
We show that the existence of life on Earth may be the reason that this black hole-like object is a black brain that has been formed from biological materials. This is NCBI NLM. This is the National Institute of Health.gov. Just so you guys know where I'm reading this from.
So the ways that the parts of physics that they're talking about are like spooky action at a distance and weird parts of like relativistic physics that like
this article's been retracted.
which is why you can't like, even if it's like using like a quantum terminology, like it becomes such a metaphysical like problem because it can just be like hoo-ha.
Well, let's read some of this hoo-ha. So the size of the DNA brain BRANE, no I, is 109 times longer than the size of the Earth's core and compacted interior. By compacting this long object, a curved space-time emerges and some properties of black holes emerge. This structure is the main cause of the emergence of the large temperature of the core, magnetic field around the Earth, and the gravitational field for moving around the sun. Also, this structure produces some waves which act like topoisomeres in biology and read the information on DNAs. However, on the four-dimensional manifold, DNAs are contracted at least 4 times around various axes, and waves of Earth couldn't read their information. I'm assuming this is translated. While by adding extra dimensions on 4 + n dimensional manifold, the separation distance between particles increases, and all of the information could be recovered by waves. For this reason, each DNA has 2 parts, which one can be seen on the 4-dimensional universe, and another one has existed in extra dimensions, and only its E_X is observed. Its EX are observed. This dark part of DNA, called as a dark DNA, is an extra dimension. These dark DNAs not only exchange information with DNAs, but also are connected with some of the molecules of water and help. There we go. The water memory, primal waters, and help them to restore information and have memory. Thus, the Earth is the biggest system of telecommunication, which connects DNAs, dark DNAs, molecular water. This is nuts. This is crazy.
So it's basically like the shadows on the wall.
Well, I mean, you think of the Schumann resonance. I mean, the idea that there's a connection to a field, like an EMF field. But sorry, you're gonna say.
Yeah, so like with Carlos Castaneda, would you guys believe that he had real information or not? He talks about.
I think he had some interesting insights and was like a well-traveled enough person and somebody that was also used as a CIA asset. So he was able to.
That's always a good sign. I mean,
so I think
something. You know?
Yeah, so he was talking about how they're trying to feed this extra. They have to make a double of themselves to feed to this like black hole thing, right? So,
and he could have been talking about his own like moral dilemma with.
Yeah, either way. I mean that's, whether he's doing that or not,
Yeah, but just like Phil Oakes, he maybe had some guilt. I think
this is a wrong sync, but I always wear my sunglasses at night.
Yeah, because you can.
Phil Oakley's not Phil Oakes. I'm sorry.
Is this like Chris Gaines?
Oh wow, you're talking about Dark Brooks.
Yeah, Dark Brooks.
Dude.
I'm sorry, like yeah, that's
Wasn't that his little commentary
all
about
right.
the
So on
industry?
one level, this is
Specimen,
just ha ha hoo ha ha, but on another level, this is MK Ultra. No, I mean you got a guy.
This is him saying, "Hey, you know what? Some shit's crazy out here."
yeah, like on one hand, I might like put my whole fist inside a cow. On the other hand, I'm goth.
I might put my whole fist inside. Yeah, right.
And Beyonce did the same thing. She did like, what was it? Something Sasha Fierce, I think. I think Lady Gaga did like some other album, explicitly as another person.
Yeah, right. So yeah, you had with Phil Oakes, he was John Train.
Dude,
And
is
so
this
John-
Lady Gaga's alter ego? Whoa. This
Katie
guy-
Lang.
John Train supposedly killed Phil Oakes in the Chelsea Hotel. And
Oh, that's pretty good. I like that.
there was this whole thing with John Train, who was actually there on the day that John F. Kennedy was assassinated, and Phil Oakes, like he was like crying and like so hung up about when JFK was assassinated. But there could have been like a weird connection to this altar, John Train, who was like, it could have been this big longer thing that like he ended up killing himself because he started getting whole with like his altar because the hypnosis or whatever, like they weren't expecting him to take acid with Bob Dylan.
Yeah, that can always, it's just like the flu season. It complicates all these different things. Lyapunov fractals. This is something that Shane, you sent.
Yeah,
These are
Zane.
sick. I just
They
love
are.
this.
It's
What am
so
I looking
cool.
at exactly? What
So
did you find out
basically,
about this?
This was used to map population growth back in, I don't remember, 1800s maybe. I can't remember right now off the top of my head, but it was an equation used to map population growth, but then they discovered they could use it to make fractals too, now in the more modern era.
Wow.
And something really cool I found out was put 13.7 in the very top one there. Yes. And I think that could be, I don't know, really weird. Could be a structure.
13.7, and then what plot point should I change it to?
I put 121 just because cool number 11. And it
Let's let it load, see what happens here.
Looks like a crown already, like a wolf
Yes.
crown.
Like Pepe.
basically what I see when I look at it is that big strip in the middle, that's the universe, and then the energy, heat dissipating out from it.
Yeah,
Or maybe-
yeah. So like it's like a infinity thing. It's a slingshot. It explodes and then it contracts. It's like a breath.
Yes. And then there's also cooler things too in the strings, like the AAB string and the AABB string that shows different
ABBA?
viewpoints.
Father.
Yeah,
or,
ABBA.
like as
Yes.
above, so below.
Yes.
And so, I mean, these fractal patterns, I mean, so obviously we're using this to make some cool art, but you're saying this was originally used for census? For
I think census, yes, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly.
wow.
Census.
Yeah, to
Yeah,
like,
like-
to measure how many people live
Yeah,
where.
right. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Okay, because like you find the area by the river, and then you go out based on the population, then you're going to be able to like get the largest amount of people based on this naturally occurring phenomenon, geo popularity.
I'm looking it up really quick here. Okay, Lyapunov equation in control theory. The discrete Lyapunov equation is basically control theory, stability analysis, optimal control. Russian mathematician. Because I was very briefly kind of delving into this because I found the YouTube video on it.
Dang, these are awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, the lie part makes me think of lycanthropy, which is
Mhm.
probably totally unrelated, but it looks like it does look like a wolf and a wolf's eye, like
It looks like a pollock almost, like almost zooming in on a pollock.
Jacksonian pollock.
Yeah, like the 3D version of it. It's interesting. I was thinking of the Soviet census because of this, because these kinds of graphs were used in order the CTC machines that later became IBM. I think by this point, maybe IBM was already in charge of CTC, Central Tabulating Company, but they sold these machines to all over the world to do these giant census. And then you have the data. So how do you look at the data? So by creating this crazy system of graphs and fractal patterns, they're able to make, and so it's interesting because at the same time that they're doing this fractal pattern math, which someone goes in and looks at it and immediately knows it's about a bearish market or something else. But no, they go in for Dada modern art. Modern art is
which is shown to be like a back and forth between the CIA and Russian, Russian intelligence created this whole modern art thing to basically confuse stupid Americans.
It reminds me of the idea of the Manly P. Hall Sacred Teaching of All Ages, that there are two levels of the symbol, the secret level and then the initiated understanding of that. Kurt, you do music. What do you think of this idea that hiding in art messages that are not, do you do that ever? Like, do you hide messages for people to not completely understand?
Absolutely. It's one of the most fun things you can do with music,
right?
but like, it depends on what you're going for, like, because there's multiple ways in which you could describe that pattern, I guess, because I think in a sense, there are multiple levels of how you can interpret like a subtle message. Like sometimes a subtle message is not such a subtle message because like if you reference a band like Foreigner, they had a song called Hot Blooded, which was very obviously, about getting laid. But
that wasn't about reptilians trying to mate with primates.
No, it wasn't. But it's it's just
I have to re-listen to that song. But okay, I think you're wrong.
Band. I think
I know it. I'm pretty sure I know it, but maybe I keep going.
But it's like very obvious innuendos there, and that's always been used in music to a certain degree. But if you're getting to the point where you're talking about really abstract, like esoteric concepts, like, well, yeah, that's kind of fun to play around with too. But like, I think some people might lay that out in their music purposefully to give it a mystique without actually pointing to anything. Like, say you do a reverse track, but really the reverse track is just someone saying like, I like to spread mayonnaise on my sandwich, Yeah,
right. Or something that'll be able to go innuendo and out the other, and it's inconsequential because I
had a friend who used to work in music a lot, and he told me at the time he was working with a friend of his in one of these chat groups, and it was on like Usenet or something like even more like prototypical.
There's a Denver connection with them. They used to come in and shop at Guitar Center with me.
Which did Josie the Pussycats? No, Britney Spears?
Yeah, there was a connection with the producers. And one of the girls from Denver too.
The thing about Josie and the Pussycats, to connect it for those of you who didn't grow up in the 90s and see this movie, or didn't grow up in the 60s and didn't see the TV cartoon, which is even better. But the thing is, it's about Tavistock mind control, because this band, a dude falls out of a plane after killing the people in the plane. That was a boy band that they were trying to like get in charge of writing their own lyrics or whatever. Jumps out, goes to the next nearest town from his parachute, finds this garage band, makes them famous, puts a backtrack behind all of their music that sounds super gloss, but it sounds like, if you have the right headphone, it says, orange is the new black, buy an apple, buy a Pepsi, don't buy a Pepsi, now buy Tang, don't buy Tang, now buy Orange Sola, whatever it is, like to constantly make you buy new things and make you want to go shopping. This music makes us want to go shopping, right?
It's a revelation of the method.
Dude, not only is Josie and the Pussycats amazing though, like just before it gets done, like I don't own the rights to this idea, so I'll just put it this way: if Hanna-Barbera or somebody ever bothers to make Josie and the Pussycats in outer space, put me in charge of the screenplay. I already have all the ideas. I know how to do this story better than anyone you have. Just hire me.
But yeah, because you can get all this Jetsons cosmology and Book of Urantia shit going.
Dude, that is the 2001 Kubrick phallus rocket, right? You remember like the spheroids in Kubrickology. What do you think about that?
The spermoid rocket.
Yeah. The spermoid.
I want the the crypto Kubrology, like hot bits. I don't feel like we've heard enough from Alex.
Oh.
I
thought you'd never ask.
I'm gonna pull up the page I have ready for this. Actually, I was thinking about this. So let me pull through the crypto Kubrology page. This is the one I saw first, but you can tell me anything you've been thinking about. But this one was interesting when we're talking about Johnny Depp writing about the decision to build Hunter Thompson's Canyon Monument to 153 feet. Do you want to go into why?
Why they changed it
from 151?
Well, if you read it here,
the good doctor is a former bandmate's godfather, actually.
Oh, cool. well, this is in the introduction to a book written by Johnny Depp. The introduction is written by Johnny Depp, and he says that basically he wanted that Thompson's instructions were to shoot his ashes out of a giant cannon, and he wanted it to be higher than the Statue of Liberty. But then they figured out that his exact instructions were incorrect, and so he just says, so we just decided to put it up to one. What?
At Owl Farm, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So in his story, it's just kind of random. It's just like, well, we wanted it to be taller than the Statue of Liberty, so we put it at 153 by 1 foot. And he, I mean, so I just thought it was interesting because I was in a thrift store and I picked that up and I just started reading it and was like, oh, well,
it's
there it
the
is.
French Connection all over again.
Yeah, but, and I mean, 153 feet has been used a lot. I mean, basically, I kind of assume that the Statue of Liberty is 153 feet tall. Maybe they're not measuring it correctly or something. But also, I think it was in a documentary about Peter Amundsen, who's a Shakespearean Baconian theorist, that on what's the island in Nova Scotia, Oak Island, that they were digging there because to find some Templar artifact, and they found like a scrap of paper was buried 153 feet deep.
Vigil's the one that's all into 153, right?
Who?
Vigil. The sync book, Vigil Quinzer. He's like got a 153.
Oh, Vigil Q. Yeah. I don't know. That's been my thing really for the last while. But anyway, so anyway, I wanted to bring this one up.
You and him should talk because that's his deal.
Yeah. I'll get Vigil on the show pretty soon. Actually, I'm.
If you go to my page there and go up a few to one of my more recent ones, close. Hold on.
There was one I saw earlier.
What about Putin?
Let me open this one.
What was the August 8th one? I'm sorry, just my Charles Manson and the Beatles photograph was taken on 8.
Yeah, August 8th.
Yeah.
Let me go back to August 8th really quickly. Sorry.
I don't
go forward. There's a few things I want to cover here.
That. Yeah, you can just
July 30th, August 10th. August 10th, you've got this one.
What am I looking at here?
Stanley Kubrick death was 4
I
months,
can't
2
see
days.
it because my
here. Let me move it over.
There we go. Oh yeah, that was cool. I mean, this interview.
And by
with,
the way, Stefan sends us a super chat. Stefan, we love you. I love you. And he says luminosity of the sun is 2.8 ergs per sec cc. Luminance humans is 170,000 ergs to sec cc. Roughly 60,000 x brighter. Fact certified. Much love to Anarchitty Tanky crew. Right? Exactly. But yeah, continue. Sorry.
Cool. So there's this kind of famous. Kubrick didn't do many interviews, and he certainly didn't do any recorded. But this one was with Jeremy Bernstein in 1965. It's like an hour long. You can listen to it. It's very fascinating. But anyway, I just did the basic thing of like, how old was Kubrick when he recorded this? And is 4 months, 2 days, and 37 years old for a perfect 42 to 37 combo there.
And the Shakespeare 42, we did a thing with Woe, Alexander Woe, talking about 42's connection to Shakespeare and John Dee. So there's a thing with 42.
Yeah, big time. I'm trying to find one that's pretty recent.
Let me also
today.
While you find that one,
September 21st. That's a good one.
This one was good. Queen Elizabeth would pass away exactly 1776 days after the sinister QAnon first post on October 28th, 2017. She passed away exactly 9-11 days after the day the pandemic was officially declared, the day the world changed on March 11th, 2020. She was 77 years and 7 days after the World War II period ended as well. So that was good.
Yeah, that wasn't me. I was jealous of him for finding that. But the 1776 days after QAnon first post is kind of crazy.
You mean you didn't invent that?
I didn't invent that one. I didn't make it happen.
You didn't invent the days in the between.
I didn't catch it. I didn't wake up early enough that day to.
No, you discovered.
If you go to one that's on September 21st, down a little bit, a little further. There it is. Putin's announcement. Right there.
Oh, here we go. Okay.
So this concerns today. The very day we are talking is is 1,098 weeks after 9/11, and that's 42 plus 153 plus 237 plus 666, which is kind of like a royal flush or something like that.
You got them all. 237 from room 34. You got room 237. You got 153 from Johnny Depp and from our tower. Got 42 from Shakespeare. That's a lot.
Or the answer to life.
Right. Yeah, life. It's the the whole series. I mean, it's 6 numbers. This is our temporal algorithm. That we use to just apply it to the timeline. And so this is Putin's 70th birthday, and which will be 23 years, 7 months exactly after Kubrick died. So
he's a Pisces.
Who? No, he died as a Pisces. He died in Pisces.
Yeah. So he's a death Pisces, which
death
is
Pisces.
Talking about,
which is all the more Pisces as a Pisces.
No, we're talking about the alligator and the river Styx and the whole return home.
Totally.
What's the Vedic equivalent to the Pisces? Anybody got? What's the fish god Veda? Anybody? What is this?
Well, Philip K. Vedic had that fish necklace.
It's Varuna.
That's getting into Dogon looking stuff and Pope hats and
Wait, how do I spell Varuna? Aruna? Was it?
It's Varuna. But that's actually Matsya. That's one of the avatars of Vishnu.
Oh yeah. Let's do that one first. Actually, Matsya. How do I spell that? Like this? Matsya. The fish who saved humanity. This is an interesting one. The connection to Christ's fish and the fish who saved humanity. How many avatars of Vishnu's in are we?
Matsya is very old.
That's his first one.
Yeah, the concept of Matsya is very old. Probably goes back to the Brahmana strata of the Veda. So
it goes through all the different animals.
Christianity by quite a bit. But,
is that before they figured out dung was the cure for COVID?
This is before Big Dung. Yeah.
So Matsya basically was a fish who helped a king save the Vedas, and it's kind of like a Noah's Ark story, except for the boat is containing the scripture or the
data,
containing the divine texts.
That's fucking Avatar with the blue skin, yo.
It's
DNA.
It's a form of Vishnu.
Okay, so let's do that really quickly also. So Vishnu has 10 avatars, is that right? 9 so far?
Well, 10 famous ones. There's actually as many as there is waves on the ocean.
Oh,
so they go through the evolution of life on Earth. That's why it starts off with the fish.
The play of the supreme entity,
the interplay of everything, right?
He's playing almost like a child.
Right. Are we getting into the Dvapara Yuga or not? That's another question people have asked a bunch. I know
it's debatable. I mean, the Mahabharata and the Itihasa say no, that's not going to happen for another 427,000 years. So the cosmological scale of a lot of the actually most of the texts is very, very large. But there was a yogi in the early 20th century named Sri Yukteswar who calculated much shorter time scales, and people have tried to harmonize them. Some people are saying there's cycles within cycles.
Yeah, wheels within wheels.
Yeah, so there could be a small. The thing is, though, in the original time scales, it doesn't go back from Kali to Dvapara. It goes from Kali to Satya or Krita. So it's not actually. There's a lot of debate. I don't think sufficient research has been done into that. And you also need a special skill set. So you would have to know Jyotish, which is like Vedic astrology.
What about synchronicity in these numbers though? Like 2400, 864.
They're actually twice as large as the preceding one, right?
Yeah.
864 is the diameter of the sun, I believe.
Say it again. 864 is what?
864,000 miles is the diameter of the sun, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, there's these divine representations or relationships between the moon and the sun and the stars and the earth that we see as above, so below. So on a small scale, we see these fractals and the golden ratio and pi and phi and
Euler's equation.
You know what really is one of the most far out things in the Vedic cosmology is that they identify the shape of the universe to be like a disk. That looks like two dolphins swimming into each other. A disk of stars that looks like two dolphins swimming.
Yeah, but the disk is
Milky Way.
the disc is like this. It's not like front on. It's like from a perspective that
Like how-
implies another dimensionality.
No, I mean, like it's saying there's a disc of. It sounds very much like the description.
Yeah, like that. See how it's like
a galaxy.
It's like, or it's like tilted on its axis, so you see it like across a plane. So
No,
like
it literally says it's a disc, which means it is flat.
Right.
Well, what's funny also is that
this is another thing, but the stars themselves are arranged in a disc that looks like two dolphins. So it says Shishumara, which is another name for a dolphin, and it's kind of incomprehensible. How could they understand what these like spiral galaxies actually look like?
Well, it's interesting when have you seen all the NASA videos of GIFs? They show this idea that this is pushing forward, it's moving upwards, right? And then these things are spinning
spiraling
around it
through space and time. It's not just like going around. It's also there's like the forward thing.
Chasing
they are moving. They are moving.
But that's literally what this map. That's this map. It's this idea that the entire realm is moving together with the celestial objects moving with it, right?
Or like
there's a lot of different
of multidimensionality within like the systems, just like the Kabbalah is really like, you know, 4 different trees that are trees within trees, which are like wheels within wheels, relating to time and space and like everything going outward into a dimension that we can't even fully relate to because like it's bigger than us. All we can see is the shadows on the wall, or like, you know, the smoke, you know, from like something else that's like, oh, well, that implies that there's something there.
Well, I would like to disabuse us of the notion that these accounts are uniform. I mean, there's a lot of different mapping of the cosmos, so it's not like
at least 360 degrees, right? Like a circle. Like
no, there's accounts that are just wildly different.
Well, 3,060 days at 360, a perspective of a circle, and having like, you know, in the center point, you have the obfuscation of everyone around you, and everyone's actually right. So that's like the nasty infinity or Ocho or time, like infinity time loop thing that like none of it makes sense because that you get to this nasty infinity every time you understand things enough. Like all you can understand is that like you can't see the full deal.
Well, I would say that it's not necessarily that everyone's right or wrong. It's more like when you have a synchronistic worldview and you're trying to combine everything together into a harmonic sort of singularized form, you're overlooking the historical or diachronic travel of ideas through time. So across time, people may have said it's like this or it's like that. I don't think we need to get into so much whether they're right or wrong, but I would say like that the very attempt at synchronicity is itself to suspend that historical process.
So you're blind men and the elephant, right?
And it relates to like the water, like the Bindu point and the rippling effect. Like, you know, how we're all interrelated through the flow of time and water as the ripples go out. And so like,
the cosmic water is actually like the proto female, like Shakti, that is like Vishnu is sleeping in that. So,
or Aditi, right?
Yeah. Aditi. Yeah. That's one of like the very early, who said that?
I did. Giant.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Tell me more.
Yeah. So it's, the nakshatra that's related to her, right, is about her shooting her arrow and it coming back, about reincarnation, about cycles, basically the, you know, what people consider the matrix, the dark matrix that the whole universe sits in, right? He's dreaming into it, and this is where you probably get, you know, your sons and everything. This is Vishnu bursting his dreams in it, and Brahma is the character that has to try to figure out how to create within this matrix, within this dark realm where there is no understanding of what is up and down and all that. And that's why Brahma is represented with the 4 heads, right? He's trying to first get his equilibrium, figure out what's up from down. Vishnu's trying to communicate through you know, psychically or whatever to Brahma to say, hey, just relax, like meditate.
Yeah.
Or find source. You know, you go up to the top, or Keter, like the crown, or like the, you know, the ultimate emanation.
Yeah.
You know.
So in the nakshatras, there's a secret nakshatra. It's called a Bijit, right? And this is why the We now have put where we make the president. It's basically them trying to find the nakshatra of Abhijit, at least where they think it's at, right? Where it sits.
Nakshatra means star, right?
The nakshatra is a moon's mansion, right? The mansion of the moons, right? We call it the mansions in the Western zodiac. But
they're the wives of Chandra, right?
And I'm sorry, did you say president or precedent?
The president of the United States, they moved where they put him into office, to it's like January, 26 or something like that right now. That's where they think that nakshatra is. They do it because that nakshatra specifically, if you look at it, look up Abhijit nakshatra, ABHIJIT. Yeah. So that one is related to Brahma, and in the Western mansions, it's Mercury. So really, Abraham, Brahma, Mercury, all these characters are actually very similar for a reason, that they are able to morph into all types of things and create all the different divisions. They created all the gods. This is why Brahma is, this character that creates everything. Everything comes from Brahma.
The creative faculty of the whole.
And Brahma's a bull, yeah. So we get into the bullseye, or right back to the whole theme of the show, right? You've got the bullseye.
Yeah, and this is where this Taurus or this spinning comes from.
Toroid, right? Toroidal.
Yes, and this is the pole. He's related. The nakshatra Abhijit is related to the North Pole. And this is Santa Claus. Brahma is basically the story of Santa Claus in the North Pole. And this is why you have that spinning, and it has to do with the dragon, right? It's all interrelated. That's almost like the flower, the lotus flower that's coming out of the belly button of Vishnu is the pole stars, the North Pole spinning. It speaks
to like the as above and so belownness, where there's even a scientific terminology for the further we get out in space, the further we get down on the microscopic scale. And so we'll have this advance in how far we can see out. And then within the same year, we'll have an advance of how far we can see microscopically. Right.
Yeah. So Brahma created everything. If you kind of look at the details of how he's figuring out how to create.
That's a bunch of bull.
Well, it's a system. So the idea of something to be right and wrong. That's what I was trying to push back against earlier. The idea that this is right or that's wrong, whether it's a bunch of bull, it's just the system through the lenses through which they view their revelation. And
it's supposed to be speaking to our understanding. That's why I'm saying, when I say these certain things that I'm saying, I'm not putting it in the black and white version. I'm not saying that I'm saying this solidly. I'm saying think about this.
One man's vaccination is another man's like cow dung, right?
Yeah.
So I would like to also clarify a couple of things. That the lotus that comes out of the navel of Vishnu there is actually called Hiranyagarbha. And it's also a form of Brahma, but it's actually a form of cosmic intelligence.
Well, the U.S. Navy.
Let me finish. Hey, can you just not interrupt for a second?
No, I'm just the U.S. Navy is just moved their ship in, so it's
no. Hey, listen, bro, just chill for a sec. So the lotus, the actual thread there is actually called Sambandha, or it's the bind between the multifarious living entities like the jiva and then the one composite supreme entity, right? So they're all connected through these filaments. And then they all manifest out of this Brahma entity. Now that you don't have to accept this system, but that is the system that they use. So that's what I was saying. It's not about whether it's right or wrong in terms of a universal understanding for anybody, but it's the system in which that civilization perceives the reality. But at least let's get the way that they perceive themselves correctly. Right. That's all. Yeah.
That could be applied to everything. All thought schools
keep track of ideas,
things. The world would be much better off if people did that for each other instead of warring.
Rorik, what's his name? Rorik, the Peace Through Culture.
I don't know.
really interesting guy. He went around, was trying to find the entrance to the center of the earth. Rorik Peace Pact. Check it out.
Oh, you're talking about the artist Rorik.
Yes.
We've spoken about him before. He's the one that took the Jacob's Pillow Stone from the Rosicrucian.
Rorik. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a very interesting. He's the guy that made, or at least they think he was the one that suggested the pyramid on the back of the dollar bill.
Interesting. Well, we're about 2 hours deep. Is there anything? What do you guys? Is there stuff that you wanted to cover? You want me to pull up? Anything else?
Well, I think there to tie things up, like Rorschach. It's all, it's all in your head. You just don't realize how big your head is. And so we find ourselves on this weird precipice to naval gaze. Like we've got the U.S. ships that are going right into the Chinese coast there. Like we just saw China send some fighters over the these ships as a show of force. And so like I didn't mean to interrupt, Noel, but like naval gazing.
No, it's okay. You can interrupt,
like
but I'm also pushback.
The Navy sink, the Navy sink with this whole like basically like tension between these like the East and West, the duality or the the eye of the storm, as we have this tornado of these two different worldviews that are kind of colliding, which like call it like the forward progress of our sun through the universe, through the stars, and entropy, and just like this kind of like the way a CD spins, and if it's in zero gravity, it like
how a flame makes a circle in zero gravity instead of
yes. So you have like the eye, that's the bullseye. So like
the naval, the Navy, the waters. You come from the waters of your mother. You're attached by your naval.
Or a helicopter, it becomes a sword. If like the discs, the earth, the last element there is like they're all the same as far as the fire, the what, like it makes like Andreas showed that image of the pyramid showing the four elementals or elementals.
From the Jehovah's Witness, by the way. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So like, even a broken clock is right twice a day, but.
So what's weird is like every time I look into the Jehovah's Witness or the Mormons, I feel like more and more of the ridiculous part makes sense. And the part that is, people are so upset about, that's what everybody does. Like a cult that takes money from people. That's like, really, that's not that big of a deal.
Same.
But the part that they got right though, about spiritual warfare at the beginning of the 20th century, the end of the 19th century, the EMF, the idea that maybe the Dvapara Yuga is somehow eclipsing into our reality, which is why we have this energy, telekinetic, telepathic. I mean, we are literally talking to each other all over the world right now. Like it's not even a big deal. That is what the Watchtower Society warned us about and said that they were trying to make sure it was safe. I mean, that's not even Scientology. That's all I'm saying.
Right. But what makes us together and brings us together is this awareness that it's all the same. It's all the same bullshit. Like really, like the only way out is through, and the only thing that like all of these cultures and all of these religions talk about is being the way is like love. And like opening up your heart to being like, oh yeah, okay, this guy might be an asshole or autistic or whatever, but like, I got to find it in my heart for him. Like, like he's another human, and like, no need to be catty about it.
Humans are the worst part. I trust robots better, but go ahead, Giant. Sorry.
I just wanted to say something that, kind of relates to all this is that what we have to think about is that there's certain little secret symbols that are always there that are kind of showing us the way and what's opening up, right? Like the fact that we have the word clock, right? It has lock in it. And we actually move a lot of the stuff that moves astrologically is counterclockwise. The only thing that moves in the clockwise position is the precession. And so we're clicking over in this procession right now, and there's some interesting things, and we'll get into it in other shows and everything.
The further that you get through the procession of the equinoxes, you realize that there's actually a precession too, and that's the other cosmic wobble. And so like, Pharaoh Sanders just died. Synchronistically enough, to bring it to Egyptology. and the pharaoh and the Sphinx. But yeah, Pharaoh Sanders, who is a really cool musician, just passed away.
I wanted to find the thing on the Mayan language decoding because I thought this was a great story. There's a 12-year-old boy who figured out the Mayan language. Bottom line, it wasn't the 80-year-old, it wasn't the 40-year-old, it was the 12-year-old who eventually just understood what the symbols actually meant, rather than applying what we've learned over our lifetime to the symbol and saying the symbol has to do with our own, understanding of the symbol, which is really a big part of this difference between the math behind a fractal and understanding a census and just what does this picture mean to you, right? And the same thing is happening with cuneiform. Bringing the archaeologist kids along, best idea ever, because those are the kids who are just like, what does it all mean?
Back.
They're wrestling. Okay.
Go back 119 years. Like 119
Ooh.
years right there.
Even if TikTok translates the right language twice a day, what was that phrase?
Discovery in 1901. Also,
Even a
David Young
broken
Jr.
clock
talks
is right.
about 19.
Let's get Alex Fulton on, an expert synchronicity. What do you see in these numbers here? From now on, I'm just going to point out numbers and have you tell me about them.
Well, 119 is 119 and 118 go together because 118
In
plus
1901. In 1901, come on.
Okay.
118 plus 119 equals 237. So they're sort of a pair. And yeah, so 19 is like, of course, like one of my key numbers. It's like, and it sort of took over the world in 2020 because of the COVID-19.
Dude, you and Benjamin, you and David Ewan Jr. all about 19. His number as well. His connection to the Germans, the Nazis were all about 19. Yeah.
Oh, I'd like to see that.
You should check it out. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I never heard of that. I'll have to see that. I mean, there's a lot of things. 19 year. What is it? The 19
strains of COVID.
The lunar calendar.
Oh yeah, the lunar calendar. That's a big part of this.
And 19 is AI.
How is that the lunar calendar? The lunar cycle is 28.
No, but the lunar calendar aligns with the solar calendar every 19 years.
Right.
There you go. That's it. Yeah. Which is perfect. And 19 years and 9 months is 237 months.
Alex, I needed to ask you, should I get the traditional shining carpet that's like the hex? I already have that on my bedspread, or should I get the carpet in the office that no one ever sees on my stair runners?
Those are first world problems I've ever
get both of them. Why not? Why not both?
That's
alternate.
What I'm thinking. I get the blue one on the runners going.
I'm gonna get the whole thing as a romper onesie. It's gonna be great. Guys, I appreciate that you took the time to talk. Unless there's something else you want to cover, I'll start introducing where they can find more of your research.
I'm good.
All right, legit. Okay, so first let me pull up which page is the right page to pull up. This is complicated. We'll go here.
Got a lot of introductions to do.
I know, it'll be fun. But cryptocriptology, you gotta go first. Alex, guys, follow Alex. He's got so much important information. It's like really useful on the Twitter, because as the Twitter goes on, there'll be something going on and then you'll get a new perspective of it. Even if you're not deeply into numbers, this connects to this is like a quick into what the numbers are representing. And a lot of these guys are obsessed with numbers. Like people that love money, people that love architecture, they love numbers. So it's important to know there's a reason why the PR has to do with that.
I want to just mention that I will be creating an actual website. I've got it in the works and I'll be launching it pretty soon. So Twitter sucks. So, let's be real. So I got my little website where I'm going to put all the graphs and stuff, pictographs I've made over the past 5 years or so. Yeah, that's Michael Johnson at the 96 Olympics setting a world record of 19 seconds, wearing 230-70 on his jersey, which I just discovered recently. It's in that Clint Eastwood movie, Richard Jewell. But yeah, so I'm going to have cryptocriptology.com pretty soon.
Oh, sweet.
You can check me out there.
That's going to be epic. I'll also pull up Zane's page. Guys, make sure that you jump on Zane's Twitter as well. He's got a bunch of links here to really interesting research, and he's putting out some interesting stuff. I mean, I'm going to do...
you got montauk.net in your bio. That's cool.
Mm-hmm. Dude, that was one of the first conspiracy websites I read from.
Me too.
I'm going to
talk about that sometime.
We should, yeah. I'm down. I'm Zane. I'm going to have back for sure. Alex, if you want to join. Right. Zane, I want to do a whole thing just talking about Nimrod Rosario.
Yes, there's so much in there, man. So dense.
I mean, because I've done some stuff on Miguel Sereno and the Latin connections to Sam Monver and just the idea of National Socialism's tropical sides, let's say, and what they were interested in on the left-hand path. It's fascinating. It's something you never hear about. They're always talking about everything else the Nazis did, but never about the Latin American Starship Troopers, Nazis into the Veda and vegetarianism. It's really worth your time. So we'll do that. Guys, make sure that you jump onto Zane's. It's a 2 Earth Tiger. And let's see, who else have I got here? Let's see. What would you tell me to do? Giant. I'll do Giant. I know his. Go to Giant on Twitter. You can also get all of his research there. And then Raphael, I know yours, Kaminski.at. Right here. If you go to Kaminski, I'll put this description again, but you can get it from the earlier video. He's got all of the links to all the talks that we've done, and he's done recently with other people.
Yeah,
as
for
well.
Alex, check out the YouTube. You can see David's interviews, and at least one where he talks about Matrix 19, and there's also a huge Quran connection. And I found another book in German.
Which
David,
guy is this?
David Ewan
David
Jr.
Ewan?
Where is Jerusalem? Amazing talk.
There's some others too.
I got a couple talks with him. He's got a couple too, and his talk about 19. But if you can get really deep in the research, I'll send you a link to some of Ewan's books too. He'd be good to talk to.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Kurt, I'll do Kurt. American Time Machine. Tell us about your music, Kurt. Oh, you're muted.
Thank you. It is awful.
No, don't actually kill yourself is number 1 on American Time Machine right now. So,
Ow.
Nobody listens to my music, but that's okay.
I listen to your music at least every day, by the way. No joke.
Thank you. I'll have to give you lots of affection when I see you later this year.
Cheaper than royalties. Yeah.
There goes my plans for the evening.
No, very seriously, I do think, I don't know, earlier on when I was like 5 years ago when I started doing all this, I feel like I was trying to mimic a lot of other stuff. Now I feel like, well, I actually learned some real like tools of the trade, I guess. And that isn't to say that it's special, but yeah.
No, but his music's good.
I love Clown Pussy, so I'll check you out.
Yeah, dude, seriously, I'm not kidding. You guys got to jump on American Time Machine. It's that good. I'm not even just saying it.
It's a lot of it is absurdist, but recently it's been more like experimental in terms of like, I've been trying to, I picked up some things from like David Tipper and like where I wanted to go with my direction. So,
a little bit of inside Tipper tips.
Sure.
Nice.
Now, he's not as well known as a lot of other EDM artists, but he's done like a lot of, he's done just like a ton of, I guess, side work and like copywriting for like commercials and stuff. But he does, he does like just an absolutely insane work when
that face says it all. It's like, yeah, I do pretty well. Yeah.
With the barefoot audio speaker and the Nord stuff behind him, he's doing good.
Yeah, you know.
Oh yeah, absolute master, and I can't compare myself to him, but like in terms of like, I think he's one of the only people that really will evaluate. I would call it the aesthetics of a certain sound and give real texture to his approach. Into
dang it, Kurt! You were supposed to plug yourself, and now you fell in love with Tipper. No, that's fair, but
I'm in love with him. Yeah, that's. But
no,
like,
cool. It's interesting insight with any artist to see who they're like really into. So it's like it's awesome. That means more than anything, you know.
Dude, Kurt's music though, I mean, there's like bagpipes, electronic noises, amazing guitar shredding. It's legit. BK, William John, you can go to thesyncbook.com where you can also find David Plate's research, but you can also find Always Record, which is like a ton of episodes forever ago, but they're amazing. Like, oh no, this one just came out. Wow. I didn't even know you had the newest stuff. Oh, cool. This is exciting. So guys, you have to jump on all his records.
So check out episode 1, part 3 out there. I talk about a Roger Waters show in Chicago. It's a podcast from like about 10 years ago. You'll just basically find out we're basically just saying the same shit over and over again.
Waiting for people to hear it, right?
But it somehow sounds different every time we say it. I don't know how. But I loved tonight. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I try to continue the vibes of Always Record. Dude, we should do a swap at some point. We should even get Team Rabbit Hole involved. That'd be a cool thing to do. And then who else is there?
Andreas, I sent you a thing on your Facebook Messenger for my Twitch. I've given a different place every time I've been on the show for people to go.
Can you send it on the chat here? Did you send it here?
Yeah, so let me get it on Facebook and paste it over. I don't have that on my main computer, so let me just go. It's on your Facebook Messenger. If that's
all right, I can probably get this to work. 1 second.
you might be able to get it quicker because I have my Twitch on my phone, but not on my computer. But
Boom.
yeah,
Pterodactyl 11 did it. So if
Yes.
you guys go to twitch.tv, Pterodactyl 11.
I'm gonna do a little bit of streaming a little bit later. But experimental stuff with an emphasis on mental. But yeah, I'm gonna do some. I do consulting through my studio, Bright Star Studios, as well, which that's on Instagram, that's on Facebook. And so I've got a recording studio, but with Pterodactyl, that's my platform for experimental, like with the emphasis on mental, experimental. I've only got 7 followers, so I'm hoping with this show I can like at least double that. But yeah, I'm gonna do some Twitch streaming with like experimental video and Euro rack and modular synthesizer stuff. Yeah, if people need
That cat.
yeah, Sissy needs to get laid. I'm actually also a cat breeder, so I'll get a website for that soon.
Not even like by accident. It's like a on purpose thing. That's cool.
Yeah, no, she's here. She's here to get laid. I've actually got another cat coming in next week, which they have the same dad but a different mom, so it's totally fine.
That's exciting. Noel, where do I pull? Can I pull up like a Berkeley thing? You got something you want to send me to show them?
I'm working on the inside and
It refuses to grift.
in my ivory towers.
For his own personal safety, he refuses to grift. I respect that, but
no, it's not about that. I just think what you're doing is really cool, Andre. So mad respect.
You're cool as hell, Noel. I appreciate
oh,
it.
you're cool as hell. Yeah, you're cool as the Vapara. Are you kidding me? Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Well, all right, guys. I appreciate it. We'll see you next time. Tomorrow we got Wednesday Ultra. Next week we'll do another Synctank, and let's talk soon. Peace and love to you all. Take care of yourselves.
See you later. Nice to see you.